Valentina Suarez was brutally betrayed on the eve of her wedding. She lost her fiancé, her job, and sank into debt. By fleeing to Italy, her honeymoon destination, she found not solace, but rebirth. 3 years later, she became a powerful executive, and when her ex reappears, broke, asking for a job, it's her fate that she holds in his hands. A story of fall, rebuilding, and poetic justice. The paper trembled in Valentina Suarez's hands as she reread the message for the 5th time, as if the words could change if she stared at them long enough. I can't do this. I'm so sorry. Please understand that I never meant to hurt you. So simple. So insufficient. 7 years of relationship, 1 year of engagement, and all Lucas offered were 3 generic phrases sent via text message. The diamond ring that had once symbolized eternal promises now seemed to mock her, reflecting the light from the office, where, just 2 hours earlier, she had found her fiancé and Daniela, her assistant, confidant, and ironically wedding planner, entwined across the conference table. The wedding dress was still hanging in her apartment. The invitations had already been sent to 200 guests. The honeymoon on the Amalfi Coast was booked and paid for in full. The phone rang again. Her mother, probably wanting to know if the floral arrangements had been finalized. Valentina let the call go to voicemail. How could she explain that there wouldn't be a wedding? That the man everyone admired, the brilliant Lucas Mendonça, a partner at the same law firm where she worked as a junior associate, had betrayed her trust in the most spectacular way possible? The worst part was that I should have known. The key signs were there. The late messages, Daniela's sudden interest in every detail of the wedding, the meetings that inexplicably dragged on when Valentina wasn't present. The intercom on his desk buzzed. Miss Suarez, Dr. Almeida would like to see you in his office. Alberto Almeida, senior partner, Lucas's mentor, best man at the wedding that never happened. On shaky legs, Valentina walked down the hall, aware of the stares following her. The news had obviously spread. In a law firm, secrets lasted about 5 minutes. Alberto didn't ask him to sit down. This is an awkward situation, he began, avoiding her gaze. Lucas is a vital asset to this firm, a talent we've carefully cultivated. Valentina felt her blood run cold. She knew where the conversation was heading even before the next words were spoken. Considering your personal history, we believe it's best to terminate your contract. With appropriate compensation, of course, farewell, because her fiancé had betrayed her. Am I being fired because I was betrayed? She asked, feeling indignation begin to overwhelm the initial shock. Alberto cleared his throat, uncomfortable. We're reorganizing departments. Your position is being eliminated. And Daniela? Is she being reshuffled too? Silence was sufficient. Spons. 40 minutes later, Valentina left the building carrying a box containing her personal belongings, a generic letter of recommendation, and a check equivalent to 2 months' salary. 7 years of legal training, 3 years of dedication to the firm, all condensed into a discreet exit through the back door. In their apartment, rented in their names but mostly paid for by her while Lucas invested in his career, reality became more cruel. Messages from concerned friends and family, an email from the landlord inquiring about renewing the lease. Wedding bills arriving daily, sitting among half-unpacked boxes. They were planning to move to a bigger apartment after the wedding. Valentina opened her laptop, clicking on the honeymoon folder. The boutique hotel in Positano, the carefully planned excursions to Ravello, Capri, Pompeii, dreams that had turned to ashes. On an impulse, she opened her banking app. The balance was depressing. Most of her savings had been invested in the wedding, with the naive expectation that Lucas would settle the score later. A crazy thought struck her like a lightning bolt. Why not? Why not use what was left of her savings and just leave? Escape from this apartment full of memories, from this city where she would forever be the poor woman who was abandoned by Dr. Mendonça, from this life that had turned into ruins in a matter of hours. With trembling fingers, Valentina opened The airline's website. There was a ticket to Rome leaving the next morning. Expensive, but not impossible. Before he could change his mind, he made the reservation. That night, as she packed only the essentials into a single suitcase, her phone rang again. Lucas, finally calling, probably ready to offer elaborate justifications for his betrayal. Valentina stared at the device for a long moment before turning it off completely and removing the SIM card. Some bridges deserved to be burned. The Italian sun was relentless, even in September. Sitting at a sidewalk cafe in Positano, Valentina watched the tourists pass by. Couples holding hands, lively families, groups of friends taking selfies against the backdrop of the colorful houses cascading down the hillside. 3 days in Italy. 3 days staying in the hotel that should have been their honeymoon retreat. 3 days wandering alone through charming alleys that should have witnessed passionate kisses and renewed promises. The irony was almost poetic. "More wine, signora?" the waiter asked, his friendly smile revealing that he had noticed her loneliness. In recent days, she had become the sad American tourist, the object of pitying glances and extra courtesies. "Per favore," she replied, one of the few Italian terms she'd mastered. Her original plan had included Lucas as an impromptu translator with his basic Italian. Now, she navigated with a translation app and apologetic smiles. As the waiter poured more of the local wine, Valentina checked her email. A new compulsive habit, even though she knew there would be nothing but bill-paying notifications and concerned messages she kept ignoring. To her surprise, there was a new email from a law firm in Milan. Thinking it was spam, she almost deleted it, until she noticed it was addressed specifically to her, mentioning her qualifications. "Dear Dr. Suarez, your profile has been brought to our attention by a mutual contact. We understand you are currently in Italy and would like to invite you to an informal interview at our Milan office next week." Valentina frowned, confused. She had no contacts in Italy, much less anyone who could recommend her professionally. And how did they know she was in the country? Her lawyerly instincts screamed, scam. But the email seemed legitimate. The firm, Rossi, Bianchi International Law, really existed. A quick search confirmed. Just when she had decided to ignore the strange message, a woman sat down at her table uninvited. "Dottoressa Suarez? I'm Elisabetta Rossi." The woman, in her 50s, emanated an aura of elegance and authority in her impeccable suit. "I apologize for the unorthodox approach, but when I learned you were in Positano, I couldn't resist a personal meeting." Valentina nearly choked on her wine. "How did you—" An enigmatic smile. "Let's just say I have good sources." Elisabetta gestured to the waiter, ordering an espresso in quick Italian. "More importantly, I'm aware of your current situation. Unemployed recently, released from a questionable commitment, ready for a new beginning. The initial shock gave way to distrust. This is extremely disturbing. Who exactly are you, and how do you know so much about my private life? I'm a woman who recognizes wasted talent when she sees it." Elisabetta placed an elegant card on the table. "Our firm is expanding its international law division, focusing on technology and intellectual property. Your work in the Mendes vs. Global Tech case was impressive." Valentina blinked in surprise. That specific case had received little attention, even within the firm. It was a complex case involving patent rights that she had researched extensively, though Lucas had received most of the credit for the favorable outcome. "How do you know about that case?" "I meticulously research potential collaborators." Elisabetta took a sip of her newly arrived espresso. "Milan. Thursday. All paid for." "No obligations, just a conversation." Standing up, she added, "Unless, of course, you'd prefer to return to Brazil and rebuild from the rubble, rather than starting from scratch on new ground." As Elisabetta gracefully walked between the tables, Valentina realized she had been holding her breath. What choice did she really have? The money would eventually run out. The apartment would have to be surrendered. Jobs at top law firms in Brazil would be impossible with Alberto Almeida quietly blocking her path. Milan. an international law firm. A new beginning. The alternative was to return home with my head bowed, face the pitying looks, rebuild from scratch. The next day, she boarded the train to Milan, leaving behind the honeymoon that never happened and embracing a future that was uncertain but entirely hers. TechVision's counter-proposal has arrived, Dr. Soares. Valentina looked up from the documents she was analyzing, smiling at her assistant. Thanks, Marco. You can leave it on my desk. Outside the window of his 30th floor office, Milan spread out in a panorama of modernity and history. Glass skyscrapers contrasting with centuries-old bell towers. 3 years had transformed this view from intimidating to comforting. 3 years. Sometimes it seemed like a lifetime since that afternoon in Positano, when Elisabetta Rossi had appeared like a corporate fairy godmother, offering not just a job, but a complete reinvention. The intercom rang softly. Dr. Soares, the video conference with Tokyo is ready when you are. I'll be there in 5 minutes, Valentina replied, adjusting the perfectly tailored jacket. Her reflection in the window showed a woman she would have hardly recognized 3 years earlier. Her brown hair, previously always tied back in a conservative ponytail, now fell in elegant waves around her shoulders. Her discreetly framed glasses had been replaced with contact lenses, revealing almond-shaped eyes enhanced by subtle but effective makeup. Her traditional legal department clothes had given way to pieces by Italian designers that accentuated her athletic figure, the result of Pilates classes and regular weekend swims in Lake Como. The physical transformation, however, was only a reflection of a deeper change. The shy, insecure Valentina, always seeking approval, had been replaced by a confident and assertive lawyer specializing in international technology contracts. The youngest partner in Rossi and Bianchi's history, fluent in Italian and French, she was in demand for speaking engagements across Europe. A woman who didn't ask permission to take up her space. After the video conference, where she closed a particularly lucrative deal with a Japanese conglomerate, Valentina met Elisabetta for a lunch that had become a weekly ritual. More than a mentor, the senior lawyer had become a close friend, almost a maternal figure. Have you decided on the São Paulo proposal yet? Elisabetta asked as they savored risotto in a small, discreet restaurant. Ah, yes. The proposal. The opportunity to open a Rossi and Bianchi satellite office in Brazil, with Valentina as CEO. A triumphant return in a way. I'm still considering it, she answered honestly. Part of her feared revisiting the past, reopening wounds that had finally healed. Another part longed to complete the circle, to prove to herself that she had truly moved past it all. Whatever you decide, you have my support, Elisabetta said with a warm smile, although I must admit that Milan would be significantly less interesting without you. On her way back to the office, Valentina received discreet compliments from other passers-by, a phenomenon that still surprised her. Her transformation hadn't gone unnoticed, and the confidence she now radiated naturally drew admiring glances. How different from 3 years ago, when she walked down the streets of Rio with her head down, trying to make herself invisible to avoid questions about the canceled wedding. On her phone, a notification, booking confirmation for her exploratory trip to São Paulo next week, a business trip officially. A reconnection with her roots, unofficially. A test to see if he had really left the past behind. São Paulo pulsed with a familiar energy Valentina had almost forgotten. The orderly chaos, the constant rush, the sky cut by skyscrapers that made Milan's historic buildings look like miniatures. From the 18th floor of the boutique hotel where she was staying, the city seemed simultaneously strange and intimately familiar, like a recurring dream. 3 days of productive meetings with potential partners and clients had practically sealed his decision. He would open Rossi and Bianchi's Brazilian office, expanding his professional horizons while closing a personal chapter. Ironically, he was staying just 15 minutes away from his old office. A coincidence his subconscious had probably planned when he chose the hotel. Anything else you need, Dr. Soares? the receptionist asked when Valentina stopped by to request a taxi reservation for her last meeting of the day. No, thank you. His reply was interrupted by a commotion at the entrance to the hotel restaurant. Sir, you can't enter without a reservation. Sir, security. A scruffy-looking man was trying to force his way in, gesticulating frantically as the security guards closed in. He was wearing a wrinkled suit, several sizes too big for his gaunt frame. Beard stubble, greasy hair, bloodshot eyes. Valentina would have walked right past it, instinctively veering away from another urban drama, if not for the way the man gestured. A distinctive flick of his wrist that stirred a dormant memory. It was then that he shouted, his voice strangely familiar despite the harsh tone. Please, I know she's here. Dr. Valentina Suarez, I just need 5 minutes. Shock froze her in place. It couldn't be, but it was. Lucas Mendonça. Unrecognizable at first glance, but unmistakable now that she was looking at him directly. The man for whom she had cried endless nights. The man responsible for her public and professional humiliation. The reason she had fled to another continent. Reduced to a pathetic shadow of the elegant, confident lawyer he had been. The guards were already dragging him outside when Valentina finally found her voice. Wait! Everyone turned to her, including Lucas, whose eyes widened in a mixture of shock and something close to reverence when he recognized her. Val? Her voice faltered. Is that you? Oh my God, you're unrecognizable, she offered, maintaining her composure, despite the internal turmoil. Just like you, apparently. The guards looked at her, waiting for instructions. All right, he said with the authority he had carefully cultivated over the past few years. I know this man. You can let him go. Lucas stumbled as he was released, and Valentina watched with clinical detachment as he appeared physically unsteady, clutching a column for support. Can we talk privately? He asked, looking simultaneously desperate and embarrassed. Valentina considered refusing. It would be justifiable, even poetic, to ignore him as he had ignored her 3 years ago. But curiosity, and perhaps a desire, for definitive closure prevailed. 10 minutes at the bar. In the most discreet corner of the elegant hotel bar, they sat like strangers. Lucas ordered a whiskey with visibly trembling hands. Valentina opted for mineral water. He began swallowing. Incredible. Completely transformed. And you seem to have fallen on hard times, she replied tersely. Lucas laughed humorlessly. That's an understatement. He took a generous sip of his drink. I lost everything, Val, absolutely everything. Don't call me Val, she corrected automatically. That intimacy no longer exists. He nodded, duly reprimanded. Excuse me, Dr. Suarez. What happened to you? He asked, professional curiosity momentarily overriding his personal grief. The story emerged between anxious sips of whiskey. Apparently, after the breakup, Lucas had continued his relationship with Daniela. For 6 months, everything seemed perfect. A promotion at the firm, a new apartment, luxurious trips. Then the trouble began. A risky investment suggested by Daniela. Then another, and another. She controlled everything, he explained bitterly. The accounts, the investments, even my passwords. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. Daniela had disappeared, taking almost all of Lucas's money with her. At the same time, irregularities in cases under her supervision came to light. Falsified documents, manipulated evidence. A bar association investigation revealed gross incompetence, license suspended, dismissal, criminal prosecution for procedural fraud. I lost the apartment, the car, my reputation. Lucas seemed to diminish with every word. I'm living on a cousin's couch, working as an unlicensed paralegal for a fifth-rate law firm. Valentina watched, her emotions oscillating between satisfaction at the apparent karma and a distant pity she hadn't expected to feel. Why did you look for me? I heard about the new office you're opening. Rossi and something Italian. He looked at her pleadingly. I need a job, Val. Dr. Soares, anything, messenger, archivist, assistant. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm desperate. The irony of the situation hit her like a wave. The man who had dismissed her as an inconvenience was now begging for crumbs from her table. And what makes you think I would even remotely consider your candidacy? Because you loved me once, he replied simply. And because despite everything that happened, you were always a better person than me. So what did you do? Elisabetta asked, her voice slightly distorted by the video connection. Valentina watched the São Paulo sunset through the window of her suite, her phone resting on the stand while she chatted with her mentor from across the Atlantic. Nothing. Yet, he replied honestly. The irony is almost too perfect to waste on an impulsive decision. Lucas had left his number, a basic cell phone model replacing the high-end smartphone he'd previously owned, imploring her to contact him when she'd made a decision. His devastated expression when she said she'd consider his situation had been simultaneously satisfying and disturbing. You know what I would do, Elisabetta commented, taking a sip of red wine. But the decision is entirely yours. The Brazilian office is your project. Yes. Valentina knew exactly what Elisabetta would do. The senior lawyer, known for her ruthlessness in business, would never allow someone as volatile and questionable as Lucas near a promising venture. But something inside Valentina, perhaps the same compassion Lucas had mentioned, or perhaps just a desire to fully demonstrate how their positions had reversed, kept her from simply ignoring it. He seems genuinely ruined, she reflected. Not just financially, but in every possible way. And does that give you satisfaction or pity? Elisabetta asked shrewdly. Both. Neither. Valentina sighed. Mainly, it causes closure. As if the universe had completed a perfect circle. After hanging up, Valentina stared at the crumpled card with Lucas's number. A part of her, the wounded part that had cried for endless nights, that had fled to another continent to escape the humiliation, wanted to call just to say no and hang up. Or maybe not even that, simply ignore him, like he had done to her. But the woman she had become over the past 3 years, the respected and self-confident professional, saw the situation differently. It was no longer about revenge or poetic justice. It was about choosing the kind of person she wanted to be. On the queue. Phone, he wrote a message, Café Paulista. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Bring an updated resume and be prepared for a formal interview. The next morning, Lucas arrived 30 minutes early. He had made a visible effort. His hair was cut, his beard trimmed, his suit visibly second-hand but clean and ironed. His red-rimmed eyes suggested a sleepless night. When Valentina walked in, immaculate in her Italian suit and heels that placed her slightly taller than him, Lucas stood up so abruptly he almost knocked over his chair. Thank you for this opportunity, he began eagerly. Valentina raised a hand, silencing him. This isn't a favor, Lucas. It's a professional interview. I have exactly 3 junior administrative positions available, and you're one of 12 candidates I'm considering. It wasn't true. He hadn't officially started the recruitment process yet, but he didn't need to know that. I understand, he replied, visibly deflating. Before we begin, I want to make something absolutely clear. Valentina leaned forward slightly, her voice calm but firm. If you receive an offer, it will be strictly professional. No favoritism, no special treatment. At the first infraction, no matter how small, you're out. No second chance. Lucas nodded quickly. Absolutely. I wouldn't expect. Also, she continued, you'll start in the most entry-level position possible. Assistant archivist. Minimum. Wage plus legal benefits. 6-month probationary period. The humility with which he accepted each condition, each disqualification of his previous abilities, confirmed to Valentina how far he had truly fallen. At the end of the interview, conducted with relentless professional rigor, Valentina methodically gathered her notes. I have more interviews scheduled. You'll be notified by email of the final decision next week. As Lucas stood up, defeated but still hopeful, Valentina added, I never imagined that one day you would beg me for a job. It wasn't a question, just a statement. No malice, no triumph, just the simple articulation of an extraordinary fact. Lucas stopped, meeting her eyes for the first time during the entire interview. I never imagined it either. Just as I never imagined you'd become this. He gestured vaguely at her, indicating his complete transformation. Impressive, powerful, confident. While you discovered that not everything can be conquered. With charming smiles and convenient connections, Valentina added. Do you think I deserve this steep fall? He asked softly. Valentina considered the question for a moment. What you deserve or don't deserve is irrelevant, Lucas. What matters is what you do with this situation. Whether you'll continue to be the man who runs away from responsibilities and uses others as stepping stones, or whether you'll finally grow up. Standing up, he extended his hand formally. The decision will be communicated by email. Have a nice day. As Lucas walked out, dejected but not entirely hopeless, Valentina felt an invisible weight leave her shoulders, a weight she hadn't even realized she was still carrying. It wasn't about forgiveness or revenge. It was about liberation. Already, on the sidewalk, adjusting her sunglasses against the Brazilian sun she had once considered permanently lost, Valentina sent a message to Elisabetta. Decision made. Brazilian office opens in 3 months. Details when I get back. If that opening would include an ex-fiancé working in the basement archives room, well, that was a decision. Claude reached the maximum character limit for a message and paused. His reply, you can write continue to continue chatting. Claude can make mistakes, always check the answers.